Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, hit subscribe, smash the like, all that good stuff. So this past weekend, Shakur Stevenson defended his WBC lightweight title against relative unknown Artem Haratunian. And he was slated for his performance. The performance being dull, uninspiring, boring, and mediocre on every level. I mean, it's one of those performances that, doesn't attract any new fans to the sport, and fighters like Shakur Stevenson are a dying breed in the box office. Once upon a time, that type of style was marketed and had some success with the likes of Floyd Mayweather, of course, although Floyd Mayweather, listen, not all of his fights were the most entertaining, but far more watchable than what we saw with Shakur Stevenson. But regardless, the style of fighting is no longer a box office appeal, and fight fans, as the years have gone on, I've noticed this in the last 3 to 4 years, they seem to be rejecting that style, and they seem to be seeing the wood from the trees. Fight fans now, a lot of fight fans realise how damaging that style has been on the sport of boxing. Certain fighters forced upon us, we're told they are this, that and the third, the next Floyd, etc. Where in reality they are just dull, boring, damp squibs who are extremely privileged. Fighters in which, without an A-side status, wouldn't be anywhere near where they are. Devin Haney's a perfect example, getting beat up by a featherweight. And we're told this guy is a master, a technical wizard, the sweet science. People then try to say if you don't enjoy a guy like Shakur Stevenson, who by the way is worse than Haney in terms of entertainment, if you don't enjoy Shakur Stevenson, you don't like the sweet science. That's a psyop created by obviously promoters, etc., parroted by gatekeepers in the boxing community, absolute fucking dorks who more than likely work for promoters. How many of these guys are eyeing for jobs in promotional companies, TV networks, etc.? High showbiz. If you don't buy pay-per-views, you can't complain about boxing. You don't think guys like that are paid for? They're trying to tell us what to enjoy as fight fans. I see so many virtue signalling tweets online about Shakur Stevenson and how risky it is to be a boxer and how dangerous it is. What do you expect him to do? Just stand there and get hit? Nobody's saying that. Stop lying, stop misrepresenting people's arguments, and just stop. Nobody's saying he needs to go in there with his hands down and brawl. Nobody's saying that. But when you're an A-side fighter like Shakur Stevenson, who's got a size advantage, a speed advantage, all the politics in your favour, and you're fighting a guy who is European level, if we're being kind, and you're pussyfooting around, playing touch butt, why should we be happy with that sort of performance? Why should we champion that? Why should that be celebrated when there are fighters in boxing who are taking more risks, who are fighting better competition, who are challenging themselves while trying to put on a show? The levels of entitlement shown by Shakur Stevenson and his fans, by the way, his fans dwindling by fight, but he still has fans. The levels of entitlement shown by Shakur and his fan base has to be studied. If you want to fight that way, fair enough, if you're not breaking any rules, which he does, by the way, he fouls all the time, but less said about that the better. If you're going to fight in such a negative fashion, then you have to pay the consequence. You can't expect to fight in such a way and garner the respect of fans, or the fanfare, or the attention, or the millions of dollars that come with that. You can't expect that anymore. Those days are gone. And thank God they are. They're going. That they are rapidly disappearing. And thank God. Because fighters like Shakur Stevenson, all they do is take from the industry and give nothing back. You think Shakur Stevenson has ever inspired anybody to box? Or anybody to become a boxing fan and support the sport? Of course not. People like him drive fans away. That's the reality of the situation, And the fact he turned down, what was it, a 5-fight deal for $15 million, whatever it was. It's crazy money, considering Outside of Newark, this guy can't sell a ticket. Who's going to pay for this guy on pay-per-view? I'm convinced these are social experiments when it comes to throwing so much money at a fighter like Shakur Stevenson. A guy who couldn't knock out a good wank. Come on, man. And listen, enough of this shit. Oh, if you don't like Shakur Stevenson's style, then you don't like technical boxing. You don't appreciate the sweet science. If you want to see a technical boxer, watch Mike McCallum. Watch James Toney. Michael Nunn, a guy who was an outboxer. That's a technical boxer who you can sit down and watch and actually enjoy. This guy is negative. He's a runner, he's a holder, he's scared to get hit, he fights bums, he's protected by A-side politics, he consistently fouls and breaks rules. He's horrible to watch. It's just that simple. You know, I've seen people try to compare this guy to Pernell Whitaker, Sweet Pea. Pernell Whitaker, first and foremost, had some very good fights. And even the fights in which he wasn't entertaining, he at least still fought with some charisma. You know, little bit of dancing, the upper body movement, the showboating. Even his boring fights were levels better than Shakur's best fights. Can we stop? And by the way, the quality difference is insane as well. Don't compare Shakur Stevenson and Pernell Whitaker. Shakur Stevenson is literally scared to get punched. He said that himself after the Nakatila fight. He didn't like what he felt, so he started running. You know, we have to be rewarding bravery. We have to be rewarding courage, and Shakur has shown none of that. Maybe that's why there are so many people who like Shakur these days, because it's, you know, being weak is a virtue now. Weakness is a virtue, so maybe that's why they relate to Shakur Stevenson. You know, his outbursts online, crying for respect, crying about anyone who has a dissenting opinion, saying he'll do this, that and the third to a journalist who criticised him. How about do it in the ring? There's a noble idea. How about put on a show in the ring? Mind blown. 1000 IQ idea. Who the fuck would know? Jesus Christ. And also, like, some of his tweets post-fight, he was flaming up Mark Kriegel, who did the post-fight interview, saying he was negative and, you know, being a hater, basically. So, out of interest, I watched the post-fight interview back because I was kind of surprised. You know, Mark Kriegel is the biggest pom-pom waver around, so I was wondering, has Mark Kriegel gone off script and actually started criticising? Listen to the interview. What I heard was a guy in Mark Kriegel who was treading on eggshells, who was placating to Shakur Stevenson. I don't know why these fans were booing you. Artem Haratunian was running. You know, he was making all the excuses in the world for Shakur Stevenson. Mark Kriegel tried to do his best damage control. That's not hating. That's being a suck-up. That's being a company man. You know, that's being dishonest. That's what Mark Kriegel was. He was on Shakur's side. And Shakur was still upset with a post-fight interview. Shakur Stevenson is the epitome and the symptom of modern day boxing. Fighters who take and give nothing back, and who expect the world. They take and they expect more. Awful, absolutely awful. One of the worst fighters to watch in boxing. It's that simple. And if he wants to change that, if he wants more respect, if he wants more fanfare, if he wants to earn more money, how about actually put some shots together, go through the gears? I'm not expecting Shakur to become Roberto Duran, but he can do more. He can do more, especially against that level of opposition. There's one thing doing that. Let's say he was fighting Tank Davis, where the guy's got speed and power. If he's sort of cautious in that sort of fight, you can understand it. But Artem can't punch. He's slow. He's barely European level. You know, you got to be taking that guy apart. I'm sorry. It was a showcase fight, and you showcased what you're about. You know, that's a reality. He showcased that he's a boring fighter. You know? That's it. You know, guys like Erislandy Lara got a lot of criticism throughout his career for being boring. But one thing about Erislandy Lara, against that level of opponent, he knocks them out. Look at what he did to Maurizio Lara. Look at what he did to Yuri Foreman. Look at what he did to Canelo Alvarez's brother. to cornflake Lamana. He always takes care of those guys. When he fights those sort of fighters who are levels below him, he takes care of them. And when Shakur Stevenson is taking these sort of fights where he's like a 20-1 favourite, I expect him to be going through the gears. I expect him to put a beating on his opponents. It's that simple. You can't be fighting bums like that and delivering that sort of performance. That's a reality. Anyway, share your thoughts below.